are the areas that are the best at doing this flexion extension forward and back. So those are the two areas, the neck and the low back, that you want to be looking for that space. It's really easy to jam your head back, but not so nice. All right. So some other areas.
This isn't a red X, like don't do it. It's just in the background.
So some other areas that are important to bring attention to if you're looking to create your neutral spine is, the first one is your hip flexors. So if your hip flexors are tight, it takes you out of this position here and it brings you more into this tuck. Oh yeah, sorry.
So you see a lot of people who sit at the desk, you stand up and you're like, oh, I'm fully extended. You're not.
Yeah.
You gotta go, boop.
Yeah. So the shortness here, the tightness here, starts to really pull here where the hip flexors attach in the back.
And sometimes when people do planks and they go, oh, I feel pain in my back, it's because these are trying to take over and do the job that your abs are supposed to do, or they're really, really tight, so when you get them in that stretched position, they're pulling. So this is really great to do at the beginning of any exercise routine, or if you've been sitting a long time.
Yeah.
And if you can't be on your knee, you can always be next to a wall for stability and just tuck
Or
under.
actually, we can all do this here in the chair too. So the chair one is really nice. So if you want, just turn your knees. Let's all scoot around in our chair. So we're facing the doors, but don't turn your chair. Don't turn your whole chair. I left the back of my chair where it was.
You just want to turn your body.
My body. So the back of the chair is where it was. I turn my body. Good. Now scoot yourself toward the front of the room, toward the front edge of your chair. You might need to hang on to the back of the chair for balance. Now let your front leg drop down so your knee is pointing toward the floor, if possible. So there are a lot of other hip flexor stretches. If this one doesn't work for you, it's fine. There will be something else that does. Now, we want to engage those transverse abdominals, so hug your low belly in especially, and lengthen up, but not too much, because we don't want to do a back bend. And now, we're thinking of stretching the knee down toward the floor, and maybe slightly pressing the hip with the dropped knee to the side of the room.
Forward. Yeah, you're pushing it forward. Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll feel it at the top of the thigh, sometimes you'll feel it across your hip, but that's all stretching.
T8, this is transverse abdominal. So that hugging in sensation.
We're going to give you the handout.
Yeah. What you're doing when you hug in your abdominals is you're stabilizing your spine. So naturally, it wants to bend with this movement. So just stabilize your spine as you're doing it.
Because if you have very tight hips, remember it's a bad neighbor. And so if they're really tight, what's going to try to move when it shouldn't move? Your low back. So when you're really trying to stretch this, and this is tight, if you're not stabilizing this with your muscles, it's going to get the movement from your low back, and then you're not really helping the situation at all. Okay.
All right. Next is a hamstring stretch. You might have seen a lot of variations of hamstring stretches. Now the hamstring needs to be stretched because, as I showed earlier, this is when we have tight hamstrings, and it starts to pull our tailbone down toward the floor, and this is when we get the rounded low back. It's stretching out too far. So if we can relax the hamstrings, then we're able to bring our pelvis more to that neutral position.
And that's also why we have one of the legs straight down. Oftentimes people will have one of the other leg bent, and that actually allows you to keep that posterior pelvic tilt when you're stretching your hamstrings. So you're not addressing, you're missing part of the stretch basically. So by keeping this down leg pressed to the floor and engaged, not just lying there flop to the side, you will get the maximal stretch for that elevated leg.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to keep your other knee straight?
It can have a slight bend in it because when it's totally straight, you're also stretching where the calf attaches behind your knee. And so you could alternate, like this one, where I have the towel behind the leg, I alternate from slightly bent to totally straight. And I'm using my quad muscles to straighten out that knee. So you could go back and forth.
But the other leg is always straight?
Yes.
Well, there are
This leg. is always
about like, 100 variations of
Yeah.
this stretch. So standing, you can do these standing. We've recommended this one because it's easy to take the pressure off of your back in this position. You can find your neutral back against the floor. So again, we don't want to be laying on the floor with our low back pressing. We don't want to be laying on the floor with our back really arched up. There is going to be a small bridge, like a little lift from your pelvis to your rib cage in the spine. Now, some people do experience low back pain when they're doing this one with a straight leg. So in that case,
Well, when the other leg is up, it usually goes away. If you lie on the floor with both legs straight, that's usually where you get back pain because it can cause that hyperextension in your back if you're tight here. So,
yeah,
like, I mean, you can bend a little bit.
yeah, there's some,
Listen to your body.
see, even between us, we have differing opinions, so, but I'll just say, in the beginning, if we're starting off
Yeah.
easy, or on the more gentle side, then go ahead and bend your knee. If you get into that position, you're like, it just doesn't feel quite right on my back, you may be arching too much when your leg goes straight, and so when you're able to find that neutral back and hold it in with your knee bent, and then experiment with straightening your leg out, keeping the
Yeah,
top
once
leg
the leg
straight.
is up. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, so, you know, fitness is a broad industry. We're coming at it from two different,
I think we're saying the same thing.
I think, so,
Yeah.
yeah. But, so, good we agree, all right. So let's see, neutral spine, so that, yes, we mentioned that, not here, neutral spine on the floor, and a small lift, there we go. All right, so this is what we've been preparing for with these stretches, the spine, finding neutral spine, and stretching the hamstrings, getting the hip flexors stretched out, ready to move. Now we can do this beautiful hip hinge that Susan's doing.
So, Sihan, keeping the curve, if all of you can see, sorry, can you see now? So I have a lumbar curve here, I have a cervical curve here. I'm keeping those as I'm bending from my hip. Oftentimes when people think of bending in their forward like that, they think of this.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then right here, this is where the pressure is going, right here. And then when she comes up a little higher, it's coming to this part right here. And then so on all the way down. Whereas if she can move here and the movement is at the pelvis, then these really big muscles and really big bones that are meant to do that kind of movement are
Take
really
the work. And you can see how important it is to have a flexible hamstring because when you're hinging here, if you're not flexible, you're like, oh, that's all I got, but I gotta get that thing off the floor. So now I'm gonna get the rest of it from my spine. And that's where that wear and tear happens. And you can strain your muscles and worse. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you can bend your knees, yes, but.
Yes, you can bend your knees. You should bend your knees. Actually, that's a great question because you don't want to have stiff leg and do that. It puts a lot of pressure on your back.
So some other areas you might need to address if you're getting ready for this is chest stretching. Let's see, the next one, there it is,
Yeah.
the chest stretch. So if you are coming down and your chest is really tight, your upper back may automatically round. So some sort of a chest stretch. This is a really basic one where you have some external rotation in your shoulder. That means your shoulder is not rounded in, it's
Right.
rolling down your back. And you can open up and stretch the front of the
Use
chest.
a door frame, use a pillar,
Mhm.
use your friend, whatever.
Yeah, and so with that opening chest goes this exercise here, the scaption, that, right, with the, against the floor in that
His head is
reflexive
supported on the
exercise.
floor, but you don't have to do that. I just wanted to show neutral neck because oftentimes when people do this, they do this with their head, and you don't want to do this with your head. You want to be like you're standing, but now you're just on your stomach. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay, yeah. And so for many of us, getting down on the floor to do this exercise, it doesn't really seem like that great of an idea. So you can do it on your bed if you want to lay down. It doesn't have to be the floor. It might be at the wall. So same thing, you just don't have gravity pulling you down, but you can press your arms into the wall.
I'm glad you did that. So he was doing this. What is different between this and this? So now if your hands are this way, you're not opening up your chest. So we just did the chest stretch and we want to reinforce that with the muscles on your back. So we want the palms to be facing the ground or in front of you. And then when you retract your scapula, wow, you're using the back of your shoulders in a way you haven't since you've been working on the computer, right? Okay.
So the hip hinge is present in most of our movements throughout the day. We're walking, we're not walking with the low back, we're walking. You may be lunging, maybe you're not bending over this way to pick something up, but maybe you're going this way. There's still hinging happening. There's movement here, the spine is neutral, there's movement in the other leg. So here's a variation of a squat, maybe just sitting and standing from your chair. So notice when you're getting up and down from your chair, how is it happening? Is it this kind of a thing with the rounded back, or can you keep the back engaged? Can you plant your feet, hug in that transverse abdominal area, and press up with neutral spine?
Oh, I didn't put on the slides, but a really great way to practice this, if your legs aren't super strong, so you kind of have to get that momentum to get out of the chair, is take a broomstick and you put it in front of you or some kind of pole. And, you know, it's not ladylike, get your feet apart. And you're going to push on that broomstick as you stand up. And that automatically causes you to engage these abdominals. And that way it takes some of the strength you might not have in your legs yet. We always say you don't have it yet because your body is dynamic, and as you work it, it'll get stronger.
Yep.
What happens if you put your hands on your legs over here?
As long as you keep your spine up, you don't hunch over as you do it, that's also a good option when you don't have a broomstick, if you're like at a luncheon or something. Might be
I
awkward.
gave my broomstick to him.
It could
Okay.
be really, if you don't have a broomstick, it could be a chair, a table.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
You push down on it, you're pushing down.
But remember how you're pushing, you're not hunching over it and pushing up with your, yeah, you're trying to just help yourself stay erect in your spine. Okay.
And then you see this one here too, you might have seen that picture on the previous slide. This is to get used to that movement. So when you're doing the hip hinge, your hips are reaching back behind you. It's not just a tipping forward, it's a forward,
stand
forward
about
and back
stand
movement.
about a foot in front of the wall, or maybe 6 inches to start, and you just reach back until your booty hits the wall. It's a great feedback.
Yes.
Some of us have to stand a little farther away than other people.
Any questions about any of these so far? All right, I said we're saving questions till the end, but sometimes it comes. All right, there's that chest stretch. Now, moving on to lateral flexion. So our spine laterally flexes, yes. And you may or may not have been in the gym doing this kind of exercise or this kind with one dumbbell to strengthen this side of your back. So this is where we get into that same problem. Remember, cat and cow, we're compressing one area if we're not thinking about the length. Guess what's happening right there in the spine? You can see a lot of potential for compression over and over and over again.
Right. Go for it. You got it. You covered it.
So what can you do instead? You're taking my exercise away from me. So here, you can definitely move to the side, yes, but we need to keep that space. Here's a great example. Here, she's supported, and she's doing a side movement mindfully without shrinking on the sides.
So again, we're not confusing stretching with weight-bearing exercise. Cat-cow was non-weight bearing, it was stretching through the flexion and extension. This is stretching through lateral flexion. We wouldn't want to weight that. We wouldn't want to compress that, right? Right. Okay.
Oh, good. Yes, thank you.
So
Now-
what do those muscles actually do? They extend and they brace you so that you don't go this way when you're lifting a heavy load. So
Yeah, for example, like the gallon of milk or that extra heavy bag of groceries that they pack for you at the supermarket when you're coming home, but you only have one, and we have to stay upright, we can't walk like this, so that's when these come in, suitcase, whatever it is you're carrying, or maybe over here on one side, you're getting ready to push something up, all these unilaterally weighted movements.
it's a better way to work those muscles.
Yeah, so here in this picture, I'm just carrying a dumbbell and walking with one dumbbell, trying to keep myself upright. It's also a nice exercise for balance. If you want to incorporate a little bit of balance work into this, if you're wobbly, you can focus on stability there. All right, and we have a few more exercises you can do for your lateral flexion. Plank again, side planks. So a variation of side planks, and here is a really good place to get started, standing side plank. What we're trying to do is, again, engage these muscles for stability without repetitive crunching motion. So how far can you go, Susan, while you're on the wall? So leaning against the wall. If you're ready, if you feel good there, you can take a foot up. You see she's taking a foot up.
And that works the side of your butt too,
Mhm.
so that's good. Because that helps, that's a muscle that's really important for balance.
And so once you're ready to get past the wall, you can do it on a chair, like here, or maybe a bench. And if your wrist is sensitive, put it up a little bit higher on your elbow, on a table maybe, here. And same, you can add that leg lift. And we're looking for neutral spine, trying not to round up.
Yeah, I see some variations of side planks where people drop their hips and lift their hips, and I'm like, you're kind of missing the point. So if you're doing any movement, any pulse, it's very small, but usually just holding it is enough, okay? The other thing that you want to really look at, it's easy on these elevated ones, but once you come down to the floor, oftentimes I see people in a side plank like this, right? So you want to make sure as you're on your side plank, you're extending those hips, right? You're squeezing those glutes, like we did with the stretch, okay? All right, next one.
All right. Moving on to the twist. So like the lateral muscles, they're creating stability. The twisting muscles, the obliques, are also creating stability, say if you're opening a heavy door or something like this, so that your body just doesn't shrink away. So they function in rotation and anti-rotation. So pushing or pulling a heavy door would be anti-rotation. Stabilizing.
Here, give me your hand. Push against it. You're using it. Oh, that's a really easy way to.
Yeah. And then rotation. We use our obliques when we look over our shoulder to check for the blind spot or we're driving in reverse. So they function in both ways, but we're focusing a lot on the training of the anti-rotation.
And just like when I said taking the flexion, the spinal flexion crunches out and working on stabilization in a plank actually made me stronger in those flexion exercises, it's the same thing with the obliques. If you're working anti-rotation and stability, then you go to do something where you need your obliques, you've got plenty of strength to do it. So it's the best way to train.
So what you might see in the gym is maybe you've done this yourself, really fast bicycle twisting exercises, the legs are going and your body is just hanging on. It's like, okay, these fast catches, it's like move and catch and switch, as opposed to support, like
And
we're
keep your
stabilizing.
spine neutral, and then you're moving from the muscles that you're trying to access. The slower you go, the more likely you are to be using the proper muscles when it comes to abs.
Yeah, and that one's actually a pretty, advanced, not advanced, but it's a pretty multi-level, multifaceted exercise, so it can get done incorrectly a couple ways. So also something you might see or have done yourself is a fast twisting stretch. So you want to just get that back stretch, just a quick one way or the other to get that quick stretch in, or maybe you just torque really firmly into your low back. And so again, not just the bending, but the twisting repeatedly one place time after time can wear that space down and cause micro damages. So what we want to see more of is the single arm chest press. Or she's separated her feet, so she has a little broader base, but a little
Or
bit more
even on the
flexibility.
bench, you know, if you're lying on the bench and your feet are planted and you're just doing one side at a time, you're still supported. But this motion, this weight coming out to the side and not letting your body move, you're using these muscles to stabilize. Does that make sense? Okay, and it's the same thing with the row on a cable or something like that.
So
Okay.
pushing, pulling, and then slow, gradual movement as opposed to that twist fast side to side. So let's all do a slow twisting stretch. So we get a feel for this. Just go ahead and sit tall in your chair. So when we do stretch our backs, we're looking to, twist it, and you can do this seated, standing, on the floor. We're going to just start twisting, let's say 5 degrees. And we're going to keep our attention down low for now. So let's come back actually to center. Scoot forward in your chair so you have some room to scoot.
And first you want to create space, so get as tall as you can in your spine, create space. And the rotation is mostly going to be coming from the upper body, even though we're starting low. That's where, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to take our attention low on the spine and turn just a little bit. It doesn't matter which way. Now, bring your attention up a little higher on the back. So we're thinking a little higher, maybe into the bottom of the rib cage. See if you can twist that space a little bit. Now up a little higher, mid-rib cage, maybe up into the shoulder area of the spine. See if you can find a little more mobility there. And of course, our neck does a lot of twisting, but keep your chin level. You don't have to twist your head all that far. Stretch your head up, good, and then back to center.
Ooh.
Let's try the other way. So again, lift up and twist. Notice we haven't used our arms at all. There was no reaching and
No forcing.
forcing around. Because when we start to force it, all that pressure goes into the weakest point. So we want to just stay lifted and slowly twist, little by little, low, middle, upper. Keeping in mind that that low back doesn't actually twist all that much. Most of our twisting comes from the upper portions of the spine.
And that's why when you're doing a stretch class, if there is any kind of rotation or twist exercise, first you want to make sure that your knees are up. See how your knees are up because you're sitting? So if you're lying on your back doing a rotational stretch, you don't want your legs to be down here because then a lot of that rotation will come through your lumbar. So you want your knee, at least one, knee up. The other thing is, don't force. Once you get to that point, just try to melt or reach a little bit more into the stretch, but don't grind. Because what will happen is you will rotate too much in your lumbar spine, and that is really bad for those discs, okay? I know we only have a few more minutes, so let's go
Okay.
through.
All right, so here's another anti-rotation exercise with a cable, or you can use an exercise tube. And so Susan in this picture is keeping her body really still here and moving her arms side to side, not this way, not with the chest hurting, but she's working at keeping her chest pretty still. You can do it
Just like that.
side to
And
side.
I did it on the knees if you can tolerate that, because when you're down on your knees, you're automatically going to be using your glutes and your abs more than if you're standing on your feet. But it's okay if you can't get on your knees, just make sure you bend your knees and you squeeze your bun cheeks, okay? When in doubt, when you're exercising, squeeze your buns, okay? That's my life motto from me on.
So here we are doing these exercises, these unilateral exercises, the chest press, the pull. There's lots of cables in the gym, lots of rubber tubing you can use, lots of dumbbells. Okay, so what's another thing that our back does? We want to use it to stabilize our upper body movement. So you might have seen some people throwing some weights around in the gym doing the bicep curls. Here it goes, right into the back. Time and time again, or if you're trying to get your arms overhead here, like this one in the overhead press,
Right.
but the shoulders just won't stretch that far.
So this is where that mobility first comes into play. If you can only go up to here, don't choose a weighted exercise where you're having to push over here, right? Make sure you have that range of motion before you load it. There's probably a better shoulder exercise for you if you're here.
Yeah, here and then here again. There needs to be some movement into neutral spine. This is a great exercise, this overhead press. It has lots of great functions and lots of great things that it mirrors that we do in everyday life, but if you are not stabilizing
alignment.
properly, then it can be more damaging. So yes, stabilizing here. The bicep curl like we were showing earlier.
Go slower, use less weight, and actually use your biceps. Because if you're doing this, you're using your low back. And, you know, it's just your own ego that you're building up. It's really, okay.
And never forget the plank.
The best core strength plank. So we have many variations of this that we're going to give to you, but yeah.
So this is our basic plank. We've got the kneeling plank.
Is a good modifier. Remember when I said back it up? This is a good place to start, on your bed or with a cushion under your knees. Notice, you don't want to drop your pelvis, you don't want to pike it up in the air. Those are the two biggest mistakes people make. Okay? So by coming down to your knees and then crawling forward until you're in a straight line up the front of your body, you're holding your abs tight and you're nice and tall. Maybe you only hold it for 5 seconds.
Or it might be like
It's
this.
okay.
We might be on the table.
If you
We
don't
have
want to be on your knees, right?
Lots of benches to
Mhm.
do it on as well in the gym.
So you want to take the difficulty back until you feel like you can control this. I personally, if you already have existing back pain, I tell my clients, don't do it for more than 10 or 15 seconds. Take a break, do it again, do it again. You can do more sets. When you get into like minute or more planks, you usually drop your form. And so it's better to do multiple sets of 10, maybe 15, 30 seconds if you don't have back pain. But once you get beyond that, it's time to make it a harder exercise, right? If it's like not challenging you. And after about a week or two, you'll be amazed. It gets easy because these muscles are designed to work all the time at a low level. So as soon as you start training them, they adapt very quickly.
One other thing to point out about the plank is that it's a total body exercise. We're not just talking about the back, but check out her shoulder girdle. So we've been working on not rounding here. This is an important part too. So the upper back, not
You're not
just
dropping
the
your
lower
head.
back. Yeah,
You know, pick it up. Yeah, it's total body.
yeah.
Last slide.
Last slide.
I used 2 John Wooden quotes because I couldn't choose because he's my favorite coach because I went to UCLA. So, but I thought these were appropriate because it takes time to create excellence, to change anything, right? If it could be done quickly, more people would do it. So don't try to shortcut or hack biology. Do it. It's like brushing your teeth. Do it every day. Don't just do it when you hurt. Do it every day. Once you stop hurting, keep doing it because then it will keep you out of pain, right? Doing these right things all the time. And it's the little details that are vital. Little things make big things happen. They make good things happen, they make bad things happen. It's the details. So start paying attention to your spine hygiene, your biomechanics. Where is your power coming from? How are you holding yourself most of the time during the day? And if you need reminders, give them to yourself. So anyway, don't get discouraged, don't give up, keep doing the right thing over and over, you'll have big payoffs. All right? Thank you so much.
I know most of you in this room, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm the fitness director, and I want to give Susan and Rebecca another round of applause. I'm so I promised you Q&A at the end of the session because we waited and we started a little bit late. We're not going to be able to do that. However, my card is on the fitness desk. Okay? If you have a question, send it to me, and I'll make sure that Susan or myself or Rebecca gets back to you with your question. If you want more information on back health or interested in like a 6-week course or interested in personal training with Rebecca or Susan, I have a sign-up sheet right over there. And I'll put a pen out for you. Also next month I mentioned this is going to be a monthly series, on February 8th, we're going to have another talk from one of our amazing trainers called Performance Training, and you'll get information about that. So again, thank you so much. You did a fabulous job.
We have these for each table. We have these. On one side is some of the basic core exercises, and on the other side are some stretches. These can be done every day. Some exercises you need to do every other day, but these on these